Hi, welcome to the ISIG audio blog. I'm Rosemary Hasselhoff, Ambassador for Region 7 here on the west coast of the U.S., and I'm here with Michael Obrochta. Michael has served as a senior project manager in the CIA. He is a senior leader and has studied leadership as he helped that organization mature their agency-wide project management practices. He's just received the Volunteer of the Year Award from the PMI Washington, D.C. chapter and is currently serving as a member of the PMI Community Development Management Advisory Board. So welcome, Michael. What has drawn you to the topic of project management leadership?
Well, thank you, Rosemary. I'll tell you, I'm drawn to helping project managers succeed, and I've observed that leadership is an increasingly key component of a project manager's success. Now, at the CIA, where I helped thousands of project managers by providing them a way to gain knowledge and credentials, I observed that there was a gap between what they knew that they should be doing and, Rosemary, what they actually did. Now, to some degree, I think the gap was due to organizational barriers, and to some degree, I think the gap was due to project manager limitations. Regardless, though, of the mix between the reasons, I've concluded that the project managers who close that gap demonstrate a couple of characteristics linked to leadership. Now, thankfully, some organizations are including project management leadership as a competency. And one notable example of this is the brand new Federal Acquisition Certification for Program and Project Managers. It was enacted last year by the Office of Management and Budget, and it includes leadership as a required competency at all three of their certification levels.
Well, Michael, thank you for that thought on the increased emphasis on leadership in project management. You're also just a fascinating person because you recently did some more mountain climbing, most recently in Bolivia. So how did this mountain climbing adventure drive any thoughts on project management or project management leadership?
Thanks, Rosemary. It's a great question, and I'll tell you, it's great to be asked a question that allows me to combine my hobby of mountain climbing with my profession of project management. And so what I hope some of the listeners get a chance to do is explore the topic of project management and leadership. Recently, I've been exploring it because I've been writing a paper about great project managers. And when I was writing that paper, I found a number of terrific sources that give insight into answers about project management and leadership. And one of the sources was a story from history, and I think a great moment in history. It was the Antarctic Expedition project led by Ernest Shackleton. Now, this project took place from 1914 to 1916. And during that time, Ernest Shackleton and his men survived the wreck of their ship Endurance in the crushing Antarctic ice. They were stranded 1,200 miles from civilization, and they had no means of communication and no hope for rescue. And the temperatures were so low, the men could hear the water freeze. They subsisted on a diet of penguins, dogs, seals, and when the ice began to break up, Shackleton set out to save them all on his heroic 800-mile trip across the frigid South Atlantic in little more than a rowboat. And unlike polar expeditions of the time, every man survived, not only in good health, but I think key to the story, also in good spirits. And they did this all due to Shackleton's leadership. Well, this adventure appealed to my tastes as a mountain climber, and so I kept reading. And I learned that the Shackleton way of leading his Antarctic project was to constantly focus on getting the best from each of his 26 men. Shackleton developed and maintained individual relationships with each of them, and they were based on his "what can I do to help" style of leadership. Today, we sometimes refer to this style as servant leadership. Well, Shackleton looked for ways to match the strengths and interests of each individual crew member with the tasks at hand, and then he provided constant feedback. One of his men, Alexander Macklin, who wrote a journal, he wrote, quote, "He would get into conversation and talk to you in an intimate sort of way, asking you little things about yourself, about how you were getting on, how you liked it, what particular side of the work you're enjoying most, all that sort of thing. This communicativeness in Shackleton One of the things his men valued at him. It was also, of course, a most effective way of establishing good relations with a very mixed company. Close quote. Well, I think Macklin said it all. Shackleton was interested in his men first and foremost.
That's a very compelling lesson. It almost comes alive, a lesson from almost 100 years ago. So what are some lessons from Shackleton that we can apply to modern-day project leadership?
Well, Rosemary, I think that the project leader who begins his or her relationship with their team members by asking, "What can I do to help?" will find an incredible amount of equity and commitment is stockpiled that can subsequently be drawn upon. In today's matrixed project workplace environment, many, if not most project managers, find they just don't have the formal positional authority to direct all of their project team members and stakeholders. And yet these are the very people upon which the project's success depends. Well, I think a terrific approach to leading without authority is embodied in the Shackleton way of a servant leadership.
That's very compelling information. So where can those who are interested in this turn for more information about project management leadership?
Well, Rosemary, the story of Shackleton is dramatic, and I think it is applicable to so many of today's project leaders. So one easy place for project managers interested in finding more would begin just by taking a quick look at the great project managers paper that I wrote. It condenses the subject into a manageable size, and it includes a complete set of references that can be further investigated.
And where can we find this information?
Rosemary, I posted it on my website, www.zozerinc.com, and that's spelled ZOZERINC.com. And then later, PMI will have it posted on its website as I continue to deliver that paper in various locations around the country.
Well, thank you so much for your time today, Michael, and we look forward to understanding your further mountain climbing and leadership adventures. And so thank you, and ISIG also thanks you for your time tonight.
Rosemary, it's been my pleasure, and I think there are great adventures for us to have, not only on the mountains, but managing projects as well.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.